Rip somebody, you won't. I'm sure it was the refs last night, right?
It definitely was.
Steph couldn't get a call.
No, yeah, they were out there blowing whistles. The Bulls got fouled a couple times. That was not okay.
Warriors shot 28 free throws.
Yep, but some of them were by the Bulls. The Bulls did shoot some free throws, and I didn't like it. Yeah. I really didn't. DeRozan's throwing up crap that shouldn't go in, and it's going in, and the foul. What are we doing? Come on. Come on, people. You want to rip Andrew Wiggins? He doesn't even play anymore.
I've been ripping Andrew Wiggins for years.
Well,
all y'all now want to get on my bandwagon.
Oh, stop. No, no, for real. For real. Should the Warriors go ahead and hand this over to Moses? Should he be starting tomorrow night?
Yes.
Really?
I
put your name on it.
I think if Steph's out, then...
Steph's out.
Okay. So you start Chris Paul, you start Clay, you start Kuminga, you start Draymond, and you know what? Maybe you start Trace Jackson Davis. You totally change the whole thing up. Look at the combinations. You're not giving it
to Moody. You're giving it to Clay.
Give it to Moody. I actually would give it to Clay. I'd let Clay start. Put Clay in the lineup. And if you look at who plays well with whom, Chris Paul and Clay and TJD, they all play well together. It's no disrespect to Brandon Podziemski, who may or may not have hit a bit of a rookie wall. But I think when you look at... So Chris Paul is going to start, I think. Chris Paul in...
Probably.
So you put in Chris Paul for Steph. So now if you keep it everything else as is... You've got a highly ineffective Andrew Wiggins, and you've got maybe the smallest backcourt in the history of the association, going back to John Lucas and Calvin Murphy with the Houston Rockets in 1981.
That's fine, but Brandon plays big.
Big for a guy 6'3". He doesn't play that big.
I mean, he's one of the best rebounders on the team.
Right. I just think that defensively, if you have that as your backcourt, you're a little small. So put Clay in there. Give Clay a chance to start with Chris and bring Brandon off the bench. It's no diss to Brandon. You're just going to be a little bit bigger to start the game.
But what does this do with Andrew?
Andrew goes out, and you can bring Moses in. Moses, Jonathan, Draymond, Chris, and Clay. That's your five. That's your five. I misspoke with TJD before.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. I would, for me, I would start tomorrow's game just Steph out, Chris in. That's fine. And Chris is going to have to play for, if this is only 2 games, 3 games, whatever.
Yeah.
Chris is going to have to play a few more minutes. And that's fine. He played 24 yesterday.
Yeah.
He can knock it up to 31. That's fine. He can do it.
I thought he played great last night, but the plus minus would tell you differently. And this is where the plus minus to me is always fun because we use it when it serves us and we ignore it when it doesn't.
Sure.
I thought just watching the game that Chris Paul played well. He was
I agree with you.
Effectual and all the rest of it. He was a team low minus 15.
Along with the guy who we just had on the show.
Yeah, don't talk about that.
Trace Jackson Davis, in fewer minutes was minus 15.
Right. That to me it's a weird one. And plus minus over the course of one game, it's only good for when you want to make a certain argument.
The story of plus minus is bigger than what we do, which is we hang it around the necks of individuals.
Yeah.
And it's more time of game. In other words, when was the game flowing in your direction and when was it not?
Yeah, true.
And to the point that I think I'm making, which is about the starting lineup, if you do look at the plus minus last night, it would suggest that the starting lineup did really well. All of the guys who started were plus. All of the guys who came off the bench, not named Gary Payton II, were minus. Although GPT was only a +2. So largely that has to do with the fact that A, they got off to a good start when the starters were out there.
Right.
And B, when the finishers were out there, they came back. They started the fourth quarter down 10. Even though they lost, they finished it only down 3. So they made up 7 points there. And I think they were up by 6 at the end of the first quarter. That largely has to do with your plus minus, but maybe that also says something about this particular starting group. Like what you're suggesting is pretty wholesale starting lineup changes. I wouldn't do that yet. I would still start Andrew Wiggins, and then let's follow up with this question that we're going to ask Steve Kerr here in a half hour about why he's starting and then not getting many more minutes the rest of the way. But while I'm not there yet, tell you what, I got eyeballs all over it, and I think all Warrior fans do. Are we inching closer to Moses Moody being in that starting lineup instead of Andrew Wiggins? I would just say this. If it keeps going like it is, the answer is yes. Because you're now not losing anything on essentially either end of the floor by going to Moses. You're getting somebody who seems to consistently play harder. You're getting somebody who has younger legs. And you're getting somebody who probably fits into the role a little bit better. They're not asking Andrew. We talked about this earlier in the week. They're not asking him to score that much anymore. Kuminga has taken those shots, and Podziemski is getting some of those shots. Steph and Clay are obviously are going to get a lot of shots. The amount of shots that you want Wiggins to take to get back to his career averages of 18 or 19 points a game, I don't think exist on this team. So it's almost like that role, that position right now on this team is better served to be a complementary piece on offense and a crazy hard worker on defense. And right now, more consistently, that's Moses over Andrew.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't do it yet, but I'd be ready to do it soon.
I know what you're saying, and I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just going to take the counterpoint thinking about Andrew Wiggins and where he is as a person. Right now, from a confidence level standpoint, he's not very confident. And this is a player who doesn't seem to normally play with a lot of confidence, with a lot of edge, with a lot of swagger, with a lot of force. And think about where he's been. He's coming off a 10-day absence where he had to tend to personal family issues that are non-disclosed. I already paid off the bet. I bought you a pizza. He's come back, and in the 2 games that he has returned, he hasn't played that much. And we'll ask Steve Kerr here in a half an hour, is it fitness or is it fit as to why Andrew Wiggins is not playing that much? And if it's fitness, well, then you keep starting Andrew, and you expect that, all right, Andrew, now you're ready for 25 or 30 minutes, and let's get back to being the Andrew that you were. But maybe it is that his dauber is just down, and if it is, what does putting him on the bench do for that confidence that already seems to be a little bit fragile?
I don't know where we're getting the idea that he's lacking confidence.
Well, he's lacking something.
Minutes.
Well, why isn't he playing?
I don't know. That's a question for Steve.
And I would guess that he's not playing because Steve and company don't think that he's playing that well.
I mean, he went 3 of 6, +7.
Yeah. Get it, Andrew.
Did you hear Guru on the show today? Did you hear
Bits and pieces, yeah.
Guru
I was chasing after a baby.
He said he saw it in his eyes.
Andrew's eyes?
Yes. That when
Peter Gabriel in those eyes?
When Steph
in
left,
your eyes?
When Steph went off, he said the cameras cut to Andrew, and he saw it in his eyes. Andrew knows it's time.
The eye of the tiger.
It is time for another gear, and it's coming tomorrow night. That's what he said.
Against one of the worst teams in the association.